in that, we have a Heisman winner guide as well, what people think as far as the Heisman Trophy goes. And listen, there is an overwhelming favorite in Caleb Williams, Mike. And listen, he is also the favorite to go number one in the draft. He is a guy that when you look at all the physical skill set and the offense that he's in and the numbers that could possibly, be put up this year, I do understand why he is the favorite. I do understand why he is as short as he is. I just can't get there on betting a 550 because listen, there's a couple of different reasons. One, it's very short. Injuries do happen. 3, we're looking at a deal in which this is still voted on by humans. And let's just say there is someone who even sniffs the statistics that Caleb Williams puts up this year. Are they going to want to give it to somebody different as opposed to putting the same guy up there hoisting the trophy again? And while I would like to say no, they're always going to give it to the most deserving player. We're all human. We have flaws. And I think people would go, let's just go ahead and give it to somebody different. So that for all of those reasons, I just can't get to Caleb Williams at plus 550.
Yeah, Nikola Jokic just entered the chat, wondering why he didn't win his third straight MVP. Just ask about the kind of the voter fatigue there that you saw in the NBA. It's very easy. You could see a similar thing here in college football. Caleb Williams is the best player in college football. Let's just start right there, right? So, and he is in an offense with Lincoln Riley where he is going to put phenomenal numbers up. It makes it hard to sit here and say he's not the most likely person to win the Heisman, because I do believe he is the most likely person to win the Heisman this year. Plus 550 is a little short on an award like this, especially for someone that did have an injury late in the season, where injuries are going to be a huge part of this. If someone gets hurt, it makes a big difference in these awards markets. And I'm looking for a little bit more juice than just plus 550. So I think that Caleb Williams is the most likely winner of the Heisman. I can't really get to Caleb Williams here at plus 550. If I was going to take a little bit more of a price, I would look down the board. I'd look at quarterbacks, because this is a generally dominated quarterback market. So I'm looking for quarterbacks. And to me, Cade Club Nick at plus 1,400 is the spot that I'm going to look. And it's for the simple reason that this is a high-powered Clemson offense. The last 2 years have been a little bit down, right? I think it was 24 points per game 2 seasons ago. Last year, they averaged close to 35 a game. Prior to that, they've been averaging 40 points a game consistently. Cade Club Nick coming back in this offense is going to give them the opportunity to do that. They don't have the same weapons at wide receiver and tight end that you may see around some of the other Heisman candidates, specifically at Florida State, at Ohio State, at Georgia. There's just phenomenal weapons on the outside. You have Shipley. Outside of that, there's not that just stable of wide receivers that you're going to see from Clemson. But they do have a very favorable schedule. And the other part of this that you have to think about is the narrative side of this when you're betting on something like the Heisman. If Clemson runs the table, and they've got Notre Dame and Florida State at home, it's very likely that they are able to run this table. If they do, he has got a huge shot to win the Heisman here if that offense puts 40 plus up again. And I think they have the opportunity to do that this year. So for me, if I'm betting anyone right now, it's Cade Club Nick at 14-1.
So we did not talk before this segment. I take the similar approach with the Heisman, and I take the similar approach that I do with whenever we have a quarterback heavy kind of draft. I do the same thing as well with the NFL draft. And I take guys a little bit further down the board that are quarterbacks specifically, because there's really only one position that can rocket up a board, and it's quarterback. Now, we saw a little bit of this over the last couple of years where, there's a little bit of buzz in some of these other positions, but typically it's going to be a quarterback that can kind of go from out of the picture to in the picture very rapidly. I mean, again, I keep bringing this up, but remember, it is only 4 years ago where Joe Burrow came out of absolutely nowhere and won the Heisman Trophy. And so this is like the season you just painted is the same reason that Cade Club Nick is already in my account. I got a little bit longer of a number than is available now. I still think getting a 14-1 in there makes a lot of sense. It's the same reason that I have a Quinn Ewers ticket in my account right now, and it's the same reason I have a Michael Penix ticket in my account as well. So I have all three of those guys. They are 3 long shot quarterbacks, and they are guys that, listen, even if it ends up becoming Caleb Williams down the stretch, if it's between them and Caleb Williams, again, I can lock in a profit, right? So that's all we're trying to do here is put ourselves in a position to make money towards the end of the season. And Mike, when I look at this, it's set up like Quinn Ewers at Texas, right? All of the talent in the world, right? I mean, he's already been named starter. You don't have to worry about Arch Manning coming in and putting him on the bench or anything, unless he plays terrible. But I mean, he doesn't have to worry about that. If you look at these player profile guys out there, he is basically like what your prototypical guy that you are looking for in an NFL quarterback, like possesses nearly every single one of the tools that all of them talk about. They're just, can he put it all together? Can he honestly take all of the physical skills that he has and show it on the field. And, I think that this Texas team has a pretty high upside. And given what we get out of him from a physical aspect, I think the numbers could also be there. So I like these quarterbacks that could play on teams with high upside and could put themselves in the position. Even if it is still Caleb Williams, then I can come in on Caleb Williams a little bit later, still make some money, and I feel pretty good about how I kind of handled this market.
Well, I like the idea of having an ACC quarterback and having a Big 12 quarterback. Conferences you're not going to see a ton of defense in, to be quite honest, right? So you're going to be able to put numbers up inside of those conferences, and you're going to be able, if in Texas's case, I mean, you look at Oklahoma, they're currently the second choice in the Big 12. I mean, they were awful last year. They looked like a mess on both sides of the football. And now Dillon Gabriel coming back, he's the quarterback for them. He's got a shot at having a big season, but are they really going to be able to run the table? Probably not. He's going to put some stats up, but Texas could run the table. And one of the big things about these specific award markets, you have to remember it's a vote. There is a narrative aspect to this, and winning your conference is a huge positive toward that narrative. When you look back and you look at who has won this award consistently, regular season conference champions fare very, very well in this. You have to have success on the field to be able to have success when it comes to Heisman night. That's something that Ewers can have. That's something that Penix Jr. can have. If Washington wins the Pac-12, you have the same narrative there, where he can be, it's going to be because of his numbers and his play, his scrambling ability and his passing, that's going to propel them over the top. And so you're able to build narratives around these specific quarterbacks that can propel them over someone like Caleb Williams if for some reason USC stumbles.
Now, I didn't mention Jaden Daniels. Listen, LSU is a team that has really, I mean, and certainly his number has crashed. I mean, like we were talking about a guy that you could have got at 40, 45 or something like that when this market very, very first opened. His has crashed all the way down. And listen, there's a lot of heat around this LSU team thinking that they are going to be real competitors for Alabama there in the West. And in that case, as you were talking about a little bit earlier, all you got to do is get them head-to-head against Georgia. Anything can happen kind of in one game. Could that possibly be the case? For me, I'm not willing to quite get there yet. Look, I'm an LSU guy, so I've got intimate knowledge, basically, of Jaden Daniels and stuff like that. I don't like a lot of the decision-making that I see from him, and I just don't know if he's going to be able to really top from a statistical standpoint what you're going to get from a Williams or a Ewers or a Club Nick or anything like that. So I'm not as hot on him as I am some of these other guys that are, again, quarterbacks that are a little bit further down the board.
Yeah, I remember too much of his sophomore season from Arizona State to be able to bet him to win a Heisman. I mean, the decision-making was just atrocious there at Arizona State. It got better at LSU later in the season last year, but it was still a little rough early on in that season. If I'm looking down the board, what about Jordan Travis, who's facing him in that first game for Florida State? He was explosive last year, again, has all the weapons. And if it's Florida State out of the ACC, to me, he makes a ton of sense at 14-1 as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And listen, the best player in the country is Marvin Harrison Jr. The best player in the country is Marvin Harrison Jr. That being said, I don't know with all of these quarterbacks, it would take like a record-setting, one of the craziest years from a wide receiver we've ever seen because he has to leapfrog so many quarterbacks. It's not one of those years where it's like, he's really only got to jump like 2 guys and he could probably get there. It's like he's got to jump like 8 guys on the way there. And so that's the reason I just look at it as a quarterback award. I know we're only a couple of years removed from a non-quarterback winning, Mike, but I just think if we're putting our money in play here, we have to go with what is the most likely outcome, and the most likely outcome is that it's going to be a quarterback.
Well, if one of these quarterbacks is responsible for 50-plus touchdowns, what's it going to take for Marvin Harrison to win the award, right? 20 touchdowns and 1,500, 2,000 yards. Like that's astronomical, almost impossible for a wide receiver to do. It's just become a quarterback award unless you have a down year for quarterbacks. And this is one of the better years we have in college football for quarterbacks in a while. It's just so hard to see anybody else being able to win this. And you got the running back out of Michigan, that Blake Corum, that could be another contender there. He's going to get a ton of carries. But again, can he just put up the raw numbers to compete with one of these quarterbacks if they do end up going off?
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.